Hi, tile friends. So good to see all of you happy faces on this Friday. I know we're all looking forward to the weekend. We've got one more interview. We've got a great interview lined up for us today. JP Pascotto at New Look Tile and Stone. If you're on Instagram, at New Look Tile and Stone. JP, I've been following JP for a number of years now. He brings the heat on Instagram. He has some incredible installations that he shares and is really doing big things up in Canada, I believe Ontario, Canada, but he can correct me if I'm wrong. So let's bring JP to the stage and get to know him a little bit, get to know what he is up to and how things are doing. All right, he's going to join us right now.
How you doing, Luke?
JP, my man, I'm doing good. Thank you for joining me.
My pleasure, brother. My pleasure.
Right on, right on. Well, why don't you introduce yourself, your company, where you're at? I believe it's Ontario, but you can correct me if I'm wrong.
So my name is JeanPaul Pascotto. My company name is New Look Tile and Stone. We're based out of Toronto, Ontario.
Right on. And if you're on Instagram and you're not following JeanPaul, go ahead and follow him at New Look Tile and Stone. Incredible stuff. You're always kind of bringing it to the next level. And I understand you're a third generation tile installer. Is that correct?
Yes, my grandfather started doing tiles in around, I believe it was 1953. He started doing tiles. He was actually a terrazzo guy in Toronto. Okay. And then my uncle and my father got into it. So we have approximately around 120 years in our family of installers.
Wow. Wow. So who else is working in the field right now?
Family wise?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right now it's just me. My dad, he's been out of the trade for a while now because he's got some other issues with kidney disease in his knees and back.
Sure.
And my uncle too. My grandfather, of course, he's retired. He's 83. But maybe my son one day, who knows?
Yeah. Well, keep it alive. Keep it alive. And you're building a legacy, really, in JeanPaul. So that's good.
I'm trying.
That's good. That's really good. And you're a young guy. I met JeanPaul for the first time in person in January in Las Vegas.
Yep.
And
you know what? That was actually a great show. Actually, that was a great show. Meeting, of course, yourself. We had the Flash Carl in our booth. Jason Stoneman for Global Tile Posse. You know what? It was a fantastic experience for me. And I believe that any installers, whether it's you're on social media or Tile Geeks or Global Tile Posse, they should really attend those events because connecting with all the people around you, whether it's installers, representatives from other companies, it's great. It's actually phenomenal to do that stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It will humble you. I know I felt humbled. Being surrounded by rock stars and
it's we're like the what did Jason call it one time? I can't remember now. We're like the Justin Biebers of this industry.
Oh, that is too funny. Too cool.
Yeah.
What keeps your drive so high? Because I see you on your lives and your stories, and you're always so passionate every single day. And I know, I personally struggle, to keep that drive going. What keeps you driving, and inspired?
For me, to be totally honest, it's my grandfather.
Okay.
He did the trade for around 47 years. His name is on a plaque at Local 31. It's engraved in one of the floors at the Toronto Metro Convention Center. And when I see that stuff all the time, I'm like, man, I got to live up to this guy. This guy's been in this for a while now. He's got the bruises, the scars, everything to prove it. And whenever I talk to certain people down in my area, they say, oh, you must be so-and-so's grandson and whatnot. And it kind of like, it humbles me a lot because I'm like, damn, I really got to live up to this guy. This is something big for me. And I just don't want to be just an installer, so to speak, that, oh yeah, he did tiles. I want to be that guy that people remember.
Yeah.
Whether it's social media, whether it's just word of mouth, I'd like to be that guy that people remember in the industry. And to help the industry as well at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
That's really cool. You've got a great legacy, and it's so cool that you're all local there. You didn't necessarily, you kept it local and you're in a great spot in the world. And
Well, you know what? As I think for Canada right now, or Ontario, Toronto, whatever areas in Canada, social media wise, especially Instagram, it's actually really big right now, the tile industry when it comes to
yeah,
that stuff. There's a lot of great installers in Toronto, a lot of big actually Instagram accounts that are based out of Toronto,
yeah,
and to communicate with a lot of these guys and see what they're up to and how they're doing things down here. It's actually phenomenal to see what everybody's doing. And it's funny because 20, 30 years ago, when my dad or my uncle, my grandfather were still in tile, they didn't have any of this stuff. We didn't have all these networking and whatnot. It was, made a phone call on those big Nokia phones. You come and do the job, we go in here, that's it. Now that we have all this social media, like guys like yourself with tile money and everything that are doing things like this for the tile industry, it's great because I feel people can get more connected. We
yeah,
need questions, we need help. I feel it should be a community, is what it should be. It's family at the end of the day, and nobody should be, oh, I'm doing more than you, so to speak, or you're doing more than me. We should all help each other out,
yeah,
is what I feel should be done in the tile industry. And I don't know, like you remember I did that big giveaway on
yeah,
Instagram.
incredible.
Yeah, like I took about 2 weeks of work out of my time knocking on doors to companies and going, hey, you guys want to be a part of this, and going crazy. And I thought I did something there for Instagram, especially for social media. And guys like in the UK, which I'm still trying to get some of the boxes shipped to them, just the delay right now.
Yeah,
But yeah, that kind of brought things together too. And I've actually managed to contact guys that I've never even spoke to. Guys in, for example, Nigeria.
yeah,
I've never even spoke to some of these guys.
yeah.
And I was like, all right, this is cool. This is actually cool to be a part of all this stuff. And there's no better way to do it than with social media and the networking area, I believe.
That is the
Right?
best thing about the social media and the Facebook group and everything, connecting, with everybody around the world because they have so much to offer. I mean, they're doing things across the pond a lot differently than we do things here. New Zealand,
Yeah.
even Canada, just north of us,
Yeah.
our brother, you guys are doing stuff that we don't really do down here. We're just kind of catching up to in a lot of aspects, what are some of your
Yeah.
favorite trends that you're seeing up there that you're really stoked about? And then your least favorite as well.
Well, my favorite trends, which it's a common trend, especially here in Canada right now, is like large format tile, right? The porcelain panels.
Yeah.
That's a big thing in Canada right now because most of the houses that I've been working on lately are either 5 to 9 bathroom houses.
Wow.
And design wise, they're all large format. The mosaics, it's there, for design wise, maybe for one bathroom here and there, but it's not really that big, big, big in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's more large format, large format, large format. That's what they want.
Yeah.
And I believe that the large format is actually a gorgeous look.
Yeah.
It's especially on shower floors when you cut them down to the drain. It's less grout, less cleanup, less maintenance. It's a gorgeous look, but that's what's big right now. And of course, the least favorite, every installer knows it. I'm sure you know, is mosaics.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we got to do what we got to do, right?
Especially when they're glued together crooked, right?
Yeah. You know what? It seems like lately, whether it doesn't matter what supplier, manufacturer you're getting mosaics from, there's always an issue on the sheets. There's always a defect. There's always something that's wrong with them. You might get a box that's great, and then next thing you know, the next box is, where did this one come from? How did this happen?
Yeah.
Right? But it is what it is. That's why, like I talk to Flash and other guys, and I tell them, when mosaics are crooked, I feel like stuff like that when you're installing it to make it look pretty. I call it making it look pretty is what a real professional installer can do. Cutting out little pieces, fixing the mesh, doing this, adding little spacers in there to make sure the joints follow.
Yeah.
To the human eye and as an installer, if you're OCD especially, that's for me what makes a great craftsman.
Yeah.
What makes someone that actually cares about what they do. Not most guys don't take the time to do that, right? But I feel like if everybody was to just take that extra time and actually care about it,
Yeah.
that we'd be looked upon differently than the way I feel a lot of people look upon tile installers in the industry today.
Yeah.
right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
No,
You're
no,
an
you're
installer.
absolutely right. And we need to keep elevating the trade for sure and
Yeah,
elevating each other. You brought that
yeah,
up. You brought, the Nigeria guys up. I mean, these Nigerian guys that I've been meeting and know, in the groups, they're doing incredible work and they have
yeah,
like a hammer and a chisel and a
yeah,
shovel and a hoe. And they blow some of us away. And it's you know, like,
yeah,
I'm
exactly,
humbled. I'm humbled,
exactly.
really and sincerely. What
Well,
what
it's fun.
resources do you guys have up there in Canada? We've got the NTCA down there, and I actually a few weeks ago in one of these events, a Canadian said, what do we have up here? What resources up there do you find for your business and for tile and stuff like that, local or nationwide?
Well, like I said, the NTCA is more US based. We don't really have something like that down here. Um, but what we do have, like for example, our union in Canada here would be Local 31, which is the Tile, Marble, and Terrazzo Union. They do have their trade schools, their programs that they have where companies get involved and talk amongst each other with, whether it's Laticrete, Schluter, Tech, Mapai, that everybody gets together with. But we don't really have a, like sort of what you're asking program down here. And I've been actually talking to a lot of representatives from other companies and the unions and everything to try and start something actually down here.
Good.
What I'm trying to do.
Good for you, man.
Right now, it's not a good time right now, but once things get better, then yeah, I want to really start something. I know like with the CTI and CTF, like I actually want to bring something down here like that, and I want to start something and help run that.
Yeah.
And I really like to do that one day.
Well, you're the man to do it. It all starts with that first idea, that first thought. We've got a great question from the audience, and guys, feel free to put it up in the Q&A. Rick Bradford asked about complications with porcelain panels. Have you had any? How did you overcome them?
Porcelain panels, just make sure it's not windy that day. Just make sure it's not windy that day. You know what? The first time I installed porcelain panels, I broke two of them. I did. Wow. I broke two of them. And those panels were $800 each. Right? It's a very scary and delicate process when you have never done it before. Right? Everybody thinks, oh, it's big tile, it's easy. No, no.
Were those like 6 mil or what?
6 mil, yeah, 6 mil. Right? You just hold it the wrong way and it's already flexing. Yeah. All right. But Rick, to answer your question thoroughly, it's just you got to be patient with them. Make sure you have the right tools. Tools that I have to use is the Sigma carrier, and Sigma cutter, which is a great. Even Ramondi makes one. Montelite makes one. They're all great products. They all serve a purpose. But like I even purchased a table. It's called a spider table that extends out and it can go up to 10 feet.
Nice.
So I use that to cut the panels on top. So there's lots of things. It's just patience, lots of patience and steady hands. Yeah. Because like I said, one wrong move, now that costed you $800, $1,000 for one sheet. Yeah. But it's phenomenal to install and to look at after. It's gorgeous. It's amazing. And once they go in, Rick, it ain't coming back up. There's no check and tile like when we put down a 24 by 24 or 12, you want to check your coverage. It doesn't work like that with panels. You put it down once, it ain't coming back up. Yeah. Right. But now they have those tools with the vibrators that for the coverage. Right. That's your best bet to check it, and the right thin set to use, of course, and everything. And you got to make sure that your substrates, your walls are perfectly flat. Yeah. Perfect before those installations, or you're gonna have problems. Yeah. Well, but yes, they do. Sorry, go ahead. Well, John Roberts just said get the proper training. Yes, John. Yeah. They do have training here in Toronto. I know some things with I think Montelite or Ruby. They come in. Giuseppe, I'm sure you've met Giuseppe from Montelite. They have all kinds of stuff at Centura, especially another big tile company out here. I think they post them every now and then online that they have some of the training seminars, but it's worth going to 100%. It is worth it. It's not even about handling the slabs. It's learning how to use the actual tools, right? Yeah. How to break them, but it's fun. It's interesting. And you get a lot of knowledge from it.
Yeah.
right?
And for those of you in the audience, you know, feel free to talk to JeanPaul after this, and even John Roberts. You know, John Roberts can hook you up with the right tools. He is a wealth of knowledge. You need to talk to this man if you don't know tools and things like that.
John
Talk to him.
Roberts is a very knowledgeable guy. I've been following with John Roberts on Tile Geeks for years now.
Yeah,
And yeah, he's the guy to ask about those tools too.
for sure,
For
for
sure,
sure.
for sure. But yeah, other than that, once you get the hang of it, it's actually pretty easy. Once you get the hang of it. Rick said 3 months of training here, and we're moving towards a back system for tensile strength like foam board. Well, for tensile strength like foam board, yeah, well, you can use the foam board on it. It doesn't matter what you use on those slabs. It mainly is how flat you can get your walls, like I said, Rick, and the thin set you use. Something that's very, very creamy, right? Because you can't peel it back and check things. Once it goes on, that's it.
Yeah, and you want to look for the proper thin set that actually. I'm probably going to butcher the word, but exotropic thin set, where it once you vibrate it, because it's going to take you actually a half hour to notch. I don't need to go into it, but by the time you get the actual panel on the wall, it's been a while, and that thin set's actually going to cake over no matter which one. And so these thin sets are made to vibrate, and then they loosen back up and to re-adhere to.
Yeah, well, one of the thin sets, Luke, exactly from Latacrete, that I found that is phenomenal with the slabs is titanium.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Titanium for me, it's one of the best thin sets for porcelain panels, and there's nothing better, in my opinion. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and honestly, like all the companies will have the exotropic thin sets, and again, I'm probably butchering that word, but you know, I have one more question for you here, JP. You probably got a ton of stories between your family history and all the friends you know online. What can you share with us your favorite tile story?
Favorite tile story?
Funny or bad or?
Well, okay, I got one actually. I got one. So when I was around 12, 13 years old, you know, you think at that time you're going around playing with friends, road hockey or anything like that, because we didn't have iPods or anything before. We would just play sports, go out, ride the bikes, and cause trouble. But I wasn't doing any of that on Saturdays and Sundays sometimes. I was mixing dry pack for my grandfather. And when you have an old school, very old school Italian descent grandfather that barely spoke English, he was probably one of the most, how do you say, verbally abusing, but didn't do it on purpose because it's just who he was, people to work with. Very hard to work with. And I remember one time I mixed the dry pack. Again, I was 13, and I mixed the dry pack wrong. I didn't know what I was doing 100%. And he ended up, my grandfather ended up ripping up 2,000 feet of dry pack because it wasn't mixed properly in this house we were doing. It was a particular house. And I said to my grandfather, I said, Grant, like, what's wrong with it? It's fine. He goes, it's not fine. It's not the way it's done. He was very hardcore and anal about his mud. And I'm like, man, this guy's crazy. Like, this guy's insane. I don't want to come help him anymore. Like, I want to go play with my friends. Right. But in doing that stuff, like back to that story, it's now doing dry pack today and everything. I remember all the things my grandfather ever taught me, and it's installed in the back of my head. And it's like every time I do something, I think of him. And I'm like, oh God, what did he? Oh no, he's talking to me again. You know, you got that self-conscious voice in the back of your head. And you're like, but he didn't do it because he was upset at me as a thing. He just had a way of doing things. And you got the homeowners and architect. I remember back then looking at him like, your grandfather's insane. Like he's insane. I'm like, hey, you know, I'm just a kid. I don't know. I'm just a kid. But that one for me was probably one of the craziest stories, looking at my grandfather ripping up 2,000 feet of mud because I did not mix it properly at 13 years old. Yeah.
Well, you know, it's funny he let you get that far before figuring it out.
You know what? I was with him for a couple weekends doing it. It was just me and him because my dad at the time was working on another site, actually, because my father did Prince, his house on the bridle path.
Nice.
And he was there at that time doing that. And my grandfather didn't really have that good of a vision, his
Yeah.
eyes.
Oh,
So he would see things afterwards, but he was a great man. He knew what he was doing. He was a terrazzo guy by trade and a marble mason by trade.
yeah.
But till this day, he still always asks me about, because he's got dementia now,
Yeah.
and Alzheimer's, everything's kicking in now. And you'd always say, so is your son going to do tile? And he would repeat himself 3 or 4 times. I'm like, well, sometimes I hope not. And the other times it's, yeah, if he wants to, why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But other than that, for me, probably the coolest house that I've ever worked on would have to be in downtown Toronto. Eric Lindros. I'm sure you're familiar with Eric
Nice.
Lindros, the hockey player.
Sure.
Last year we did his house.
Yeah.
And that for me was one of the most intricate, difficult, most challenging projects I've ever worked on. It really pushed me to the limits there, everything,
Yeah.
lots of stress and everything, but you overcome it. You get that little bit of nervousness and stress for that little bit of time, and then you're just like, okay, let's move on, finish this, get it done.
Yeah.
And, excuse me, when it was done, it was actually posted in one of Toronto's magazines,
Nice.
his house. And I actually ended up meeting him and everything. He's actually a good guy.
That's
I
cool.
don't know, some people don't like him, but I think he's a good guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, for houses, that's probably one of my interesting. And also, I'm sure actually, mate, Luke, you're familiar with it, artistic tile.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know Pratt and Larson.
Yep. Yep.
So I installed one of those. Actually, I think you saw those flower mosaics.
I think
It
so.
looks like a flower mosaic, and it's weird. It's a weird design. It's got mother of pearl and marble.
Nice.
That is also next to one of the hardest I've ever installed, because when you got $160 a square foot mosaic in your hands, and you're shaking as it's going, and you're trying to template this, and you're like, oh God, the nervousness. I really feel that, as every trade has its thing, whether you're a plumber, electrician, drywaller, whatever you do.
Yeah.
But as a tile installer, I feel we go through the most stress.
Mhm.
And I really believe that. I really, truly believe that a lot of guys, other trades think, anybody can lay a tile.
Yeah.
Anybody can do it. It's not true. It's not true. Not true whatsoever. I feel we are artisans. We're artists
Big time.
as a tradesman, and we set the tone for the job, basically. The walls, think of it, if a wall's messed up, the tile guy will fix it. So now we're drywallers and we're framers. we're all kinds of trades. We're plumbers. We're all kinds of guys after. And I feel we should get a lot more credit as installers for the things that we do in the industry, right? That a lot of guys don't see, or it goes past them.
Yeah.
But other than that,
well,
I love what I do.
That's awesome, man. It's good to hear your passion and your joy for this trade after generations of work and inheritance there. What a rich inheritance you have, treasure that. And thank you for sharing it with the world. Thank you for taking the time here. And it's people like you who put this out there and who take it to the next level that, we're trying to run up and catch up. And I appreciate, you keeping your standards up like that.
Yeah, like I said, we're a community, Luke, and we should all be with each other no matter what it is, and talk to each other and not be against or compete against each other.
100%. 100%. Well, I look forward to, continuing to get to know you in the future and seeing where we all take each other. And
hopefully the next show.
That's it. The next show is just months away.
Maybe it'll be in 2023. Who knows?
That's it. We'll have to check it out. So we've got about 30 more minutes for networking on the clock, about 25 more minutes, 4:30 my time. So we're going to end this interview here, and let's all get together and continue the networking together. And once again, thank you, Tech, for sponsoring today's event. It means a lot to us.
Thanks, Luke, and thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure.